The New Orleans Saints are in need of a get-right game here in Week 3, and thankfully they've got the Carolina Panthers waiting for them this weekend. Why the Carolina Panthers are the perfect opponent for the New Orleans Saints this week, we break it all down in this crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much, as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget, we're free and available on all podcast apps and on YouTube as well. And I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, your New Orleans Saints expert, credential member of the media, CrescentCitySports.com, USA Today's Saints Wire, Tuesdays on Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And today's episode of Locked On Saints, which is a crossover Thursday, is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun, and it's the easy sort of way to play a non-competing fantasy experience without having to deal with like other players, people who have inside knowledge, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players and whether or not they're going to come in at more or less than their Prize Picks projections, which are available over at prizepicks.com. You get those right and you can win up to 10 times your entry. It can literally take you less than 60 seconds to submit that entry. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks and we know that you will too. And for first-time users, you're going to be able to get a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with promo code Locked On. It's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. It is crossover Thursday, Locked On Saints and Locked On Bengals. So we're going to be joined here in just a second by Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers, to break down the matchup. Let's have some fun today because the New Orleans Saints should be in a position to where the get-right opportunity is within their grasp. Here's Julian and I discussing the upcoming matchup this Sunday.
All right, back here for another Locked On NFL crossover Thursday. Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers, joined this week by Ross Jackson, our fearless leader over at Locked On NFL, and also the host of the Locked On Saints podcast. Ross, our first of 2 meetings this season. How you doing, man?
Great, man. I'm really ready for this one. I think both of these teams are going to be looking for a little bit of a get right, maybe bounce back, and maybe, however it is that you want to look at it, but game here. And I think there's going to be some fireworks. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, second year in a row where the Panthers and Saints have met early in the season. Last year was week 2. Carolina beat the brakes off of the Saints that were riddled, ravaged by COVID with the coaching staff and also some key players that were missing defensively and even offensively in that game. And I think it kind of led to a little bit of false hope here in Carolina. What is going on in New Orleans this season as they just coming off the first loss of the season and their divisional opener against Tampa Bay as far as the biggest storyline for New Orleans heading into this game on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you're watching going into this week's matchup is going to be Jameis Winston and his health. He played last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home in New Orleans with 4 fractured vertebrae. Now, I don't know about you, Julian, but if my back is sore, it's hard to get me out of bed in the morning. So to go out there and play football with 4 fractures in his back, there's something kind of, you laud him for his toughness there, but is it impacting the game? And there were a couple moments to where, and look, everyone's going to say that it's not, and I'm inclined to believe that, but if I'm going to point out a couple of moments where the back might have caused an issue, it's overcompensating, the mechanics and being able to get that torque in terms of twisting and everything and your foot placement, all of that, and trying to overcompensate all of that with, Jameis's ridiculous arm strength, which leads to overthrows, which, a couple of those interceptions or overthrow ball placement, some bad overthrows throughout that weren't necessarily turnovers, things like that. So even in moments where he was making the right decision, the ball placement was off. And I think, when you've got a guy that's got 4 fractured vertebrae, it's not hard to look at that and say, well, maybe that's got something to do with it. So he was limited at practice all week last week, limited again here on Wednesday. The Saints finally had their first perfect attendance practice of the season on Wednesday, and then we'll see how everything continues to roll out throughout the rest of the week. But I expect him to be on the field. It's just, is the injury going to be an impediment of any kind?
Okay, congrats to the Saints for being injury-free. I know back in elementary school, anyone had perfect attendance got to have ice cream. So I hope Dennis Allen, the new head coach there for New Orleans,
we do snowballs. We do snowballs here in New Orleans.
My fault. A little bit of snowballs, maybe some beignets as well from Cafe Du Monde. Well, here in Carolina, the storyline heading into Sunday has been the same storyline all week. Matt Rule, how much longer is he going to last here? I know my listeners and a lot of the fans here in Carolina are fed up, ready for Matt Rule to leave after an 0-2 start, losing a heartbreaker at home a couple weeks ago to the Cleveland Browns against a backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. They had thought they won the game, but a little bit of the poor officiating and Cade York hitting a 58-yard field goal undid the Panthers that afternoon. Then last Sunday, it was borderline unwatchable against the Giants at MetLife Stadium, as Brian Daboll has them now 2-0. The Panthers offense has been anemic, and everyone is now pointing to Matt Rule like they were at the end of last season when the Panthers lost 7 straight games. They've now lost 9 straight games, and the numbers aren't good for Matt Rule. I'm sure you've seen him. I told my listeners about him on Sunday. Panthers are now 1-25 during the Matt Rule era when they give up 17-plus points. When they give up only 16, they're undefeated. It should not take
What a disparity.
It's insane. It should not take that much to be able to win football games. And we know it's all about the margins. The Panthers have led in 17 of their last 19 games during that period of time. They're 5-12. Matt Rule overall is 10-25, and that is one of the worst winning percentages for a head coach in the NFL through that many games. So all the signs point to this not being a very long stay for Matt Rule, and he might be fired in the next coming weeks. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't necessarily see the benefit of it. But I also see that a change is likely necessary and to come. Now, Robbie Anderson here in Carolina played for Matt Rule back at Temple.
Right.
Spoke to the media on Wednesday, was saying that I don't really see how it's Matt Rule's fault. We have to execute. I'm playing for a coach this Sunday. So we'll see just how hard Robbie Anderson plays for his coach, as everyone in town and throughout the region is wanting Matt Rule to pack his bags and head back to school.
Is there a chance that if the Saints come out and they have this great game, this like get right game, particularly on over on the offensive side, that like this could be the game that leads to the exit? Or do you feel like they're going to give him a 4th or a 5th game?
Have no idea. David Tepper is the ultimate wild card. He's someone who always.
Ain't that the truth?
He said at the beginning when he fired Ron Rivera 4 weeks ago in the season back in 2019, he spoke to the Panthers.com reporter Bill Voth and told him, "I am never going to put this organization at a competitive disadvantage." Well, you can tell that was already dishonest because he hired Matt Rule, a college coach, and we see how college coaches typically pan out in the NFL. Better men have tried and failed than Matt Rule, who never beat a ranked team in college, never won a conference championship. Like, why is this guy here? And I'm not someone who's really been highly critical of Rule,
right?
Because I see that this is a building process, but when you really dive deeper, it's just so conflating how this is even a thing that happened here in Carolina. So certainly Rule could be fired on Monday if they go 0-3. Of course, I guess it depends what it looks like. But at this point in time, people are tired of hearing about how close the Panthers are. They just want to see a win. And I think things are probably a little bit better in New Orleans. I mean, you lost the first time in the regular season, right, against Tampa Bay, against Tom Brady. But the Saints are probably still in a good position as long as they stay healthy to be a team that could contend for the division again this year, right?
Yeah, it's not a panic button loss by any means, losing to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the first time in 5 matchups in the regular season that they've done so with Tom Brady at the helm. I believe first time in 8 all told that they have, or first time in 7 all told that they have. So, I don't look at it as a situation to where you're looking at a reset button or you're having the same type of conversation that you maybe are having in Carolina. It's more so just, okay, got to get right as quickly as possible. And be able to kind of string some wins together, because the schedule just gets tougher as the season goes on. And so for the Saints, it kind of comes down to, okay, the offensive production wasn't there week 1 until the 4th quarter. The offensive production really never got going in week 2. They need to be able to establish a rhythm, establish an identity early. But if you're having an injury that's hindering your starting quarterback, that becomes a little bit tough to get going. So that's why you're happy to see like Alvin Kamara, for instance, back at practice this week and stuff like that. So they're in a much better sort of conversation, I guess I'll say.
You just said get right? That's what I heard through my headphones. Yep. Oh, well, the ultimate get right game seems to be the Carolina Panthers, who the New Orleans Saints will face on Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. at Bank of America Stadium, the Shangri-La of our great city here in Charlotte.
All right, family, we got much more on the way, including the matchups that you need to know that can win or lose this game for the New Orleans Saints. and or Carolina Panthers. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Nugenix. Look, as I'm getting older, I am working. I am fighting off the losing energy, losing definition, all of these other things. And I just want to be able to hold on to the energy that I've always had. And that's why I'm grateful for a product like Nugenix. You want more energy. You want to be able to you want to be able to sort of counter all of the negative physical effects of aging. Well, Nugenix Total T can help you do that. It's a testosterone booster with testofen that will help you kind of turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, and get better results from the gym. It will also help you look and feel more like the way you want. Nugenix Total T helps you boost that free testosterone, which helps with the aging process. It helps you feel stronger. It helps you make sure that you feel leaner, a lot more energy and drive, passion, all of that stuff. So you can check all of it out over at the Nugenix website. But I'm going to give you a special deal here because now, and at this moment, you can now get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text NFL to 231-231. That's simple. Text now, and you can get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients that help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. All you have to do is text NFL to 231-231. Text NFL to 231-231. Message and data rates apply. Terms apply. Available at nugenix.com/terms.
Back here on Locked On NFL Crossover Thursday, our friends over at Prize Picks sponsor this every week, and we thank them so much for their sponsorship. Go support the people that support us. Julian Council, host of Locked On Panthers, and Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints. It is going to be a battle of two NFC South teams as the Panthers and Saints duke it out at Bank of America Stadium on week 3 of the season. Panthers 0-2, Saints 1-1, coming off a loss against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their divisional opener on Sunday or last Sunday. Okay, Ross, let's look at some matchups in this game. Certainly, Jameis Winston being healthy is good. Alvin Kamara being back at practice is important. Panthers are going to have to try and go up against a running attack that has hurt them in the past. What are some of the matchups that you're looking at as far as New Orleans' perspective that can lead to their victory on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I'll start off with a sort of a Saints offense, Panthers defense look. And for me, it's obviously you want to get Alvin Kamara going, but this new look wide receiver core has drawn a lot of eyes. They've done a lot of interesting things with it. And so, I know that Dante Jackson's sort of availability is kind of wavering. So will it be CJ Henderson or not? But either way, if we get an opportunity to see Jaycee Horn and Michael Thomas match up with one another, I think that's a really, really nice battle between these two players. And so that's one that I'm really excited about seeing. Last week, rookie wide receiver Chris Olave was targeted 13 times. Michael Thomas was targeted 9. I wouldn't be surprised to see that number flipped and see Michael Thomas in the double-digit targets this week. There were a lot of opportunities there to where Jameis Winston might have gone for the bigger play as opposed to the right play. And so, when you sort of take into account those decisions, you could add a few more targets to Michael Thomas. He's going to get double teamed. He's going to do all that, but he's also still going to get open. He doesn't create a lot of separation. I think he averaged just over 2 yards of separation per target last week. But one step for Michael Thomas is kind of, Jarvis Landry's 1 yard of separation, Chris Olave's 3 yards of separation. Like, he's that good. And so I love the idea of the Saints being able to maybe get him into the fold a little bit more. Jameis Winston maybe getting a little bit more comfortable with him. And so that's a big matchup that I'm going to be watching is whoever it is that's lining up opposite Michael Thomas. I'm hoping that we get to see as much Jaycee Horn there as possible just because I'm a fan of good football. And so to see those two guys go up against one another is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, to give you an injury update, Dante Jackson, it looks like it's going to probably be a game time decision. He'll continue to be evaluated with that hamstring injury that he suffered, I believe, late in the fourth quarter on Sunday afternoon against the Giants. So if he is out, Jaycee Horn will, of course, still be the number one corner, likely lined up against Michael Thomas. He was excellent last week against the Giants, who don't really have a great wide receiver core in the first place. But he was really good last year, too, when he started off the season before that foot injury in week 3 at Houston on Thursday Night Football. CJ Henderson would then get to start in place of Dante Jackson, and then Miles Hartsfield, the third-year player out of Ole Miss, would be in the slot in a nickel position. And there's also some talk that Keith Taylor, a fifth-round pick out of Washington, he's someone who would step up. And it will be an interesting matchup to see if the Panthers secondary can be completely healthy, especially those top 3 corners, to see them going against Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry, a Saints wide receiver core that finally is not just Michael Thomas. So, hey, congratulations to you. And as someone who, again, likes good football as well, like, find other receivers to help this man out. I know for me, if we're going to just stick on, Panthers defenses versus Saints offense, Brian Burns had 2 sacks last week.
Oh, man.
I'm looking at James Hurst, Tar Heel, love the guy, but he's not Teron Armstead.
Right.
And he's bounced around the league for a while. He's been able to stay in the league, which speaks to his talent. But I'm interested to see what Brian Burns can do. Last week, Phil Snow, the defensive coordinator here in Carolina, dropped Brian Burns back in coverage a lot of times, and that upset a lot of people here, considering
we'll keep doing that.
On those plays, the Giants had success, and you have the only edge rusher on the team who you rely on, and you're driving back in coverage. That doesn't really make a ton of sense to me as someone who, I guess, is a football idiot compared to Phil Snow, but just a casual observer. Like, come on, man. I want to see what Brian Burns can do against the New Orleans Saints tackles, especially James Hurst on Sunday. If he can get after Jameis Winston, which they did a year ago. They had guys like Sean Chandler, who's one of the backup safeties that even blitzed. Like, Phil Snow confused Jameis all Sunday afternoon long. Now, Eric McCoy's healthy this year. That's certainly going to help them out. You don't have to worry about Cesar Ruiz having to move over and play center. I think that matchup, just of the edge rush from Brian Burns, is something I'm looking at as the Panthers need to force takeaways. The only team in the league so far through 2 weeks without a single defensive takeaway. That has to change if they want to win the game on Sunday afternoon against New Orleans. How about looking at the Saints offense, or Saints defense versus Panthers offense? What kind of matchups are you looking at as far as that goes?
Oh, man. Look, the one of the bright shining spots to the New Orleans Saints team as a whole has been the linebacker sort of pairing of Demario Davis and Pete Werner. Christian McCaffrey had himself a little field day last year going up against Zach Bond, had a really nice game against him. Zach Bond will not be in that position again here in 2022.
Oh, man.
But Demario Davis and Pete Werner, who have been outstanding so far this season, they'll be the guys that will be tasked with trying to, I don't think you stop Christian McCaffrey, but you can limit Christian McCaffrey. You can compete with Christian McCaffrey. So those are going to be the guys that are going to do it, which is a much better matchup for the Saints than Zach Bond versus Christian McCaffrey was last year. Pete Werner so far has been the leader in tackles for this New Orleans Saints team, 17 total. He has the big punch out that he had against the Atlanta Falcons against Olamide Zaccheaus as he was covering the wide receiver on a wheel route to the outside. He is somebody that has speed, good sideline to sideline speed, scrapes really well. Very good in run defense. Doesn't have any pressures so far on the season, but he is a good pursuit player when asked to do that. The Saints just haven't really done that this season. So far, you're not going to blitz the mobile quarterback in Marcus Mariota. You're going to drop some guys to make sure that you can contain him if he gets outside the pocket. You're never going to blitz Tom Brady. So we'll see if they start to utilize Demario Davis and Pete Werner in those roles a little bit more against the Carolina Panthers. But even if they don't, just the matchup, the physical matchup between those guys and Christian McCaffrey is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey was involved offensively on Sunday. I think he had 15 carries, over 100 yards, had that 49-yard rush in the second half against the Giants. And that certainly is a point of contention for a lot of fans, as well as it's been a debate of how much should Christian McCaffrey touch the ball. Now, what we saw week 1 against the Browns is not nearly enough. And I would even say what we saw last week is not enough. Yes, you want him to be healthy, but he's your best offensive skill player. I talked to Jonathan Stewart on Wednesday on the show, and he talked
Great conversation, by the way. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Check it out, guys, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Either way, like, he talked about them having to find an identity on offense. And when I look at matchups, it's really just the Panthers offense as a entire collective versus that Saints defense, which is one of the better defenses in the NFL. And this is going to be a tough challenge for them. Like, you just look at DJ Moore versus Marshawn Lattimore. You look at Ike Ekwonu having to go up against Marcus Davenport and going against Cameron Jordan. I guess who usually is going to be on Taylor Moton's side, but Taylor Moton right now dealing with a knee injury. So how much might he be limited on Sunday afternoon against Cam Jordan, who has always been an excellent pass rusher for New Orleans, and just that secondary as a whole? And you bring up the two linebackers in Werner and Demario Davis, who certainly is someone who fits the mold of some of the great Panther linebackers that we've had here. And we would love to have someone like him here in Carolina. They have to find identity. And Jonathan Stewart talked about the identity needs to be Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Those guys have not nearly been involved. They have not been involved in the offense nearly enough through the first 2 weeks, especially DJ Moore going against Marshawn Lattimore, an excellent corner who got the bag last year. I need to see this offense start fast, be physical, and then finish strong. They only have 13 points in the first half through the first 2 games. That's just not going to get it done against a team like New Orleans, especially a defense as good as theirs. And an offense, that can hurt you now with all those weapons. So offensively, the Panthers need to do something more than what they've done the last 2 weeks. And I know that's very simplistic, but seriously, like execute, because that's been missing.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is, right? Like we're seeing that here in New Orleans right now, right? Like they have the talent, they have the players, but the execution has been a bit of an issue so far over the course of the first 2 games. And so with that, it is sometimes not simplistic, but sometimes it's that simple, right? Like you just kind of have to get it to happen. And so I think that like the Saints and Carolina Panthers offenses feel like they're very much in that same maybe zone, maybe that same area or conversation about, just finding that identity, getting it going. And hopefully for one team or another, obviously from our perspective here at Locked On Saints, hopefully for the Saints, they establish that identity early so that they can get a rhythm, which is something they haven't been able to do in the first 2 games of the season, at least in the first quarter. All right, y'all, more with Julian Council here in just a moment. Should I be believing in the Saints? We're going to give our predictions and projections here in just a moment, but we'll be working with the line from our friends over at betonline.net, where you can find all of the betting and sports wagering podcasts, sports wagering information that you're looking for, your number one source for all sports wagering information. For instance, BetOnline right now has the New Orleans Saints actually favored. The line has taken a move here. It was at 2.5. Now they're favored by 3 points on the road. Remember, you usually get 3 points as a home team. So the Saints favored by effectively nearly a touchdown at this point. You can take the money line there as well. They're a direct win at minus 155. But there's an over-under set at 40.5. I thought that the Saints and Bucks were going to go over, so I will just keep my mouth shut this time. But there's a lot that you can check out. There's that. There's some player props. There's some player performance stuff. Some NFL draft props. You want to start looking ahead if you're really enjoying like college football. There's college football props as well. MLB, NBA, NHL, so on and so forth. So a ton for you to check out every day over at BetOnline, our exclusive online betting partners here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Find them today. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Ross, when teams get together like the Saints and Panthers, they say throw out the records. Now, it's not throw out the record. They're very important, but certainly Carolina Panther fans would like to ignore the record as they're 0-2 heading into this game against New Orleans, a team who they split with last year in the regular season, winning week 2 at home and then losing on the road in week 17 in New Orleans. And we'll see how things play out as Carolina desperately needs to win this game. Players on and off the record on Wednesday were in full support of their head coach, Matt Rule, who my listeners and the entire fan base at this point in time, at least the ones on social media, definitely are not behind after losing 9 straight games and seeing the team come close, but not get the W. So what are your thoughts heading into this game? Panthers, Saints, who you got, as it's a 3-point spread, as the Saints are the favorites heading into Sunday's matchup against Carolina, according to our friends over at BetOnline.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that BetOnline gave the Saints the edge in this one. I thought after last week's performance that the Saints would probably travel. I mean, considering this is an away game for them as well. This is a team that has played them tough in the past, that they would actually be the underdogs going into this one on the road. But seems that at least BetOnline has some faith in them. I pivoted last week. I had originally picked the New Orleans Saints sort of at schedule release to lose the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the home opener against Tampa. And I got swept up in the fourth quarter heroics and all the other things from week 1. And I said, no, I think they can win this game. During the preseason, when the schedule was released, I picked the Saints to win this game. I'm not going to change my mind this time.
Oh, okay.
So I guess if that makes me a homer, it makes me a homer. But I am going to take the Saints to win this one. I don't know that they cover though. Like, if the magic number is 17, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 17-16 game. Like, I think these two teams will play very tough against one another. So I'll give it a tight 17-16 prediction. The Saints win, but the Panthers cover. I just think the Saints need this game, like really, really need this game. I get uncomfortable when I hear things, though, about the Carolina Panthers losing 9 straight, the coach kind of being on the hot seat, the no turnovers so far in the season. Those are the types of things. I'm sure you have a similar experience when you hear opposing teams talk about stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, it would be against this team. It would be against this team that those things happen. But I'm not going to welcome that in. I'm gonna stick with my preseason prediction, my schedule release prediction, and say that the Saints walk away with a tight win in this game. I think it's going to be a competitive one, though.
When you talk about those numbers, trying to buck the trend, week 1 against the Browns. The Browns hadn't won a season opener since 2004. They got it done. They hadn't won a season opener on the road since, I believe, 95. And they got it done against the Carolina Panthers. And the only reason as we do this, like I'm not going to give a score because I really don't know. I'll give you my who I think will win this game. But like the thing about why I didn't pick the Browns was just the history. Like the Browns, one thing I know about the Cleveland Browns is they lose season openers, and I especially don't win them on the road. Even though I felt in my heart that the Panthers were not going to be able to stop the run against one of the best offensive lines in football. Nick Chubb, who they could not tackle, had 18 missed tackles, which goes back to the lack of execution that you've seen from this team the last couple of weeks. And then last week, I had a gentleman tweet at me being like, you're telling us not to panic, but you must be panicking when you're picking the New York Giants. Like, no, I'm just going with my gut. I think the Panthers are a better team than the Giants. I just have no reason to really believe that they'll win that game on Sunday. And a lot of that's the same going into this week. I don't have much reason to believe the Carolina Panthers at home against New Orleans, who's coming off a loss, that they're going to win this game. I don't know what the offense is going to look like. I do think that Christian McCaffrey needs to touch the ball as many times as it takes to win the game. I am not concerned about his health in 2028. He's not even under contract down then anyway, but I'm not concerned about what his health, what his status is week 13 of next year. I'm concerned about right now and trying to win games. DJ Moore needs to touch the football 7-8 times. Find a way to get the ball into his hands. If you got to hand it off to him, do that. Find a way to scheme him open. That's what Ben McAdoo, the Panthers OC, needs to be able to do. So I don't have much reason to believe the Panthers are going to win this game. For whatever reason, in my gut, I think they're going to win this game. And that's all I can really say to y'all. And I think they're going to cover. I think they're going to, well, they win. So, of course, they covered if they win. I think they're going to win the game. I just feel like the players behind Matt Rule, they're going to get it done. And it's not going to quiet all the hate Matt Rule's getting and all the calls to fire him. People are going to want him to get fired anyways. There's Panther fans out there. I had some guy tweet at me being like, even if the Panthers won the Super Bowl with Matt Rule, I want him gone. It's absurd.
What's the point?
The person who told me that is not healthy. He needs to seek some sort of therapy. Find somebody to give him a hug because that's just out of control.
Statistically speaking, if you have a coach that has won a Super Bowl before, you have better odds of winning a Super Bowl, right? Like, it's easier to repeat as a Super Bowl coach than it is to be a first-time Super Bowl coach just by sheer number of, like, by the sheer numbers.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just where this fan base is right now. And I had a conversation with someone last week just about just the state of affairs and the mindset, the psyche of the fan base, and that's where we're at. And it's a big game for Matt Rule, and I want the guy to be successful. Robbie Anderson came out and he was questioning, the fans, and he did this last year when people were booing Sam Darnold. In large part, they were booing Sam Darnold because Cam Newton was back, and Cam Newton is the best quarterback to ever play here. And people did not appreciate how things went down back in March of 2020 with Cam and them saying that he could now seek a trade when all the quarterback money during that free agency cycle was already dried up. Of course, things landed. He landed in New England in July, and things worked out for Cam. And we see that Cam is not who he used to be. But they didn't appreciate how that worked out. And then they didn't want to see Sam Darnold come out there and start over Cam Newton, which was what happened in week 17 at New Orleans and week 18 at Tampa. So I understood, and I got on Robbie because, hey, man, you've had a terrible season a year ago, and you have done nothing here to sit here and lecture the fans on what a true fan is. But part of me actually agrees with him as far as Sunday goes. Like, the negative energy, like, if you're planning to go to Bank of America Stadium as a Panthers fan on Sunday just to boo Matt Rule and to chant fire Rule, like what is wrong with you?
Sell those seats to some Saints fans.
Right. Why spend? Well, don't do that. Don't sell the Saints fans. But why spend your money and waste your time with that kind of negative energy? Like, the team needs you behind them. That's what he's saying. Like, okay, you can be a fan of the Panthers and boo them. I understand that. But, like, why not on Sunday when your team's at home, try to at least encourage him to win the game, opposed to bringing the negative energy we see on social media out there on Sunday afternoon. So I actually agree with Robbie. Like, I'm not saying they're not fans, but that's just kind of crappy if that's how you want to go about it. Again, do you? It's just weird to me that that's what people would want to do. My hope is that Panther fans are going to be loud and ready to go, because that is a game that they need to win as far as getting back on track. Matt Rule trying to restore any sort of confidence, if that's even possible at this point in time. But really, Carolina, just getting a win, because they have not won at home since I think it was September 19th of a year ago, that or 20th against New Orleans. Like, that's how long it's been since they won a home game. They have not won a game, period, since November, I think, 14th, when Cam was there in Arizona. It's been a long time. Yeah. Why would you not want to give everything you have, be full-throated, and yell and scream for the Carolina Panthers to keep pounding and to beat the Saints? Like, come on.
Or sell those seats to some Saints fans.
No, do not do that.
That's make yourself some money.
The Roaring Riot has a ticket exchange. Sell them to Carolina Panther fans, but also do whatever you got to do. It's your money. Any final thoughts from you, though, Ross, heading into this game on Sunday?
DJ Moore is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Not enough people respect him. The New Orleans Saints absolutely do, though. And so the matchup between him and Marshawn Lattimore, I just wanted to re-highlight that because I think that's going to be a really it could teach you. It could tell you a lot about how this game is going if DJ Moore has got 9-10 catches in this game. Okay, so that's kind of my biggest thing. And watch for the New Orleans Saints offensive line. You talked about the Carolina Panthers defense confusing Jameis Winston last year. Looking to see if Phil Stowe is able to confuse the offensive line, where the New Orleans Saints have struggled with some blitz identification issues over the course of the first couple of weeks, is going to be a big, I guess, key in this one as well, because the Saints have given up some second level pressures to untouched linebackers in both of these last two games. And there's a pretty talented second level group there in Carolina and pressure package group there in Carolina that I think might look to take advantage of that.
All right. Ross is taking the Saints. I'm taking the Panthers. Homer picks all around. Saints, Panthers, Bank of America Stadium, Uptown Charlotte, 800 South Mint Street. You'll be there. Yep. That'll be great. Maybe I'll catch up with you after the game, after the Panthers win, of course. Game
drinks are on me if they win. I got you.
Well, hey, actually, unfortunately, I am sober until October 20th because I am having something at my gym.
Nice.
So yeah,
tea and coffee on me. Then
it's a choice. It's a choice I made to better myself. But it's really hard to sit here on this couch and watch this team and not drink at all. Just going to throw that one out there. But Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time, also known as God's Time Zone, over, I believe, probably on Fox, since they're both NFC teams. So check that out. Also, check us out. Locked On Panthers, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Locked On Saints, hosted by Ross Jackson. Wherever you get your podcast, rate, review, subscribe. Don't be a hater. Give us 5 stars. Come on. What's the point of giving 2 stars? That's the weirdest review to give. And you can also check us out on YouTube. Thanks again to our sponsor, Prize Picks, for sponsoring yet another Locked On NFL crossover Thursday. And for my Locked On Panthers listeners, again, it's weekly Friday mailbag time tomorrow. So at me or DM me on Twitter, at Julian Council and Saints fans. You can also follow me on Twitter and just troll me if you want to. I'll take the followers. I don't really care. But Ross, been fun. Enjoyed it. Best of luck to you guys on Sunday.
Back at you, buddy. Appreciate you. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll catch you all later on Friday.